All right, welcome back, guys. So today I'm doing another bagger. This one's for a buddy of mine. This is going to be a silver metal flake base, and then it's going to have black and silver, maybe a little bit of blue because he really wants some blue in there. Graphics or color or something, I don't know. I never know, until I start laying them out. As a lot of guys know, I mainly do only motorcycles now. I'm too old and beat up to do cars, and these bikes are just easier for me to do. The paint jobs aren't really hard to do, but sometimes these guys or girls will take them out and scratch them, and then bring them back to you and go, oh, I need you to touch this up. And sometimes they're multicolored and this and that, and it's a lot easier said than done. And I was just looking at my computer the other day, and I ran across an old video that I did last year on a pink bagger, big wheel bagger that I had painted, and a few months later it got scratched, and I thought I'd show you that. A lot of times you go in with an idea that, oh, I'm going to fix it like this and I'm going to fix it like that, but you always got to have a plan B, because sometimes it just doesn't happen the way you think it's going to happen. So in that case, luckily I had a plan B, because the first repair kind of went to pot, and I was able to pull it off with the old plan B. So give me a second, I'm going to load that up and I'll show it to you guys here in a sec. Remember, if you like this kind of stuff, give me a like, give me a sub if you would, leave me a comment, and I definitely appreciate it. And I will see you guys on the next video. Stay tuned though, because I'm going to play that other video right now. All right, thanks guys. All right, this is a bike I painted, I don't know, maybe 3-4 months ago, and it's back because it got scratched here on the side of the saddlebag. You can kind of see all that. So in this video I'm going to repair it, and hopefully you won't be able to see the repair, and I'll show you how I'm going to attempt to do that. I've already masked off the top of the saddlebag, and I ran a piece of tape along the side. It's going to get all masked off. I'll end up putting a bag on this thing, and hopefully try to keep it as clean as I can throughout the spot-in process. So anyways, all right, the first step is going to be 800 it, and 800 just the whole area, because I'll end up clear coating the whole bag when I'm done. So I'm going to sand the whole bag with 800 wet sandpaper, and then we'll go from there. All right. Okay, so now I have 800 grit the whole saddlebag, because when I'm done the spot-in repair, I'm going to clear the whole saddlebag. And this is the damaged area. I don't know if you can see. It didn't get in the white. It did get in the silver metal flake, and it did go all the way to primer here, which is kind of a drag. I'm glad it didn't get in the white. That's one less color I'll have to deal with. But the first step, what I'll probably do is I'll go ahead and mask off the areas that can be saved. And I'm going to come back and I'm going to sand this with probably 180. And then I'm going to use a glazing putty to fill in that divot there with the scratch. As soon as I do that, I'll be right back and I'll show you how far I got. Okay, so what I've done now is I've masked off the surrounding area. I used a piece of 180 to kind of feather edge as much of that as I can. And I've actually spotted this exact same spot in before on this motorcycle. They scratched it in the exact same spot. Only this time it is probably 20 times worse. It wasn't this big deep gouge before. I was able to work pretty much on top of the clear, fade in a little bit more candy pink in here, do the candy red fade, and it pretty much hid it. Unless you knew where it was, you really didn't see it. But the next step I'm going to do is I'm going to put some polyester putty, glazing putty in that, and then I'm going to sand it flat, and then I'll be back. All right, so that's it with the glazing putty put on to fill up that divot that the scratch made. I ran a piece of 180 over it just to kind of knock it down a little bit. Now I'm going to finish it off with a piece of 320, and once I do that, I'll be back. All right, so far what I've done is I've 180'd the scratch out, used some polyester glazing putty, and then I sanded the top of that glazing putty just to get the shape of it going with some 180. Then I ran 320 over it, and then from there I sanded around it again with 800. Okay, now usually in a spot repair like this, the next step would be to shoot some primer so you can seal this or lock it all in. But what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to use the same clear coat that's on here now, and I'm going to clear me a spot this big, and then I'm going to work on top of the clear. Now by doing that, I'm saving this, and this down here around it. I'm not getting primer all over everything that I have to now go over and spot in everything else. I'm just going to work right on top of the clear. I'm going to mask this white off. I'm going to mask this corner off. I'm going to spot in this silver. And then I'm going to spot in this candy pink. And do my little candy red fade that I've got in there already. And hopefully this is a technique that you'll be able to use on your own. All right, let me get going. All right, well, before I do shoot that clear on there, it's always important to keep your customers' jobs as clean as possible through the whole process of repairing or painting or doing anything. I usually don't work on bikes that are completely put together like this one is. I like to work on one piece at a time off the bike, but in this case, this is how they brought me the bike, and I don't take people's bikes apart. So I take care of as much as I can by masking off, and I tape all the way to the floor so nothing gets up under it, because that urethane clear, it will get everywhere. And now you're spending the next half a day cleaning all that overspray off. So always make sure you mask off really good, and keep the job as clean as you can, and the spot repair as small as you can, and you'll be happier at the end of this that you're not cleaning off a bunch of overspray. All right, that's 4.5, maybe 5 coats of urethane clear I put on there, and that's going to lock in all that glazing putty It's going to fill in the scratches that I caused by the 320 and the 800 sanding. And also, I didn't get any primer or anything on this, or anywhere where I don't want primer, which would have been any of it. I don't have it because I didn't use primer. I used a urethane clear coat to lock in all that body work. And now tomorrow, when this is fully dry, I'll come back in and I'll sand it all with 800, and I'll work on top of 800 over on the clear. So it's just a little trick. If you're not familiar with it, you know, maybe it'll come in handy for you. If it's a solid color bag, black, red, white, whatever, then it's not really going to matter. But when you have multi-colors like this, and you have, you know, panels with designs and graphics going on, you want to save as much as that as possible, and then blend into it, you know, carefully. And it'll save you a lot of extra work. Otherwise, you'll end up, you know, you get too much primer on it and too much trying to block it in and everything else. You'll end up having to repaint that whole side when you didn't really have to. So this is how I do it. You know, if it's something that might be useful for you, you know, feel free to do it yourself. But hopefully it'll work for you. It's always worked for me. It's great for doing, like, you know, if you got a tank or a fender or something that's got, you know, maybe a 2 or 3 color flame job on it, and you don't want to redo all the flames to match the other side, you know, just keep your repair as small as possible, seal it with a coat of clear, and then come back in and try to just spot in that panel or that spot, and then save the rest of the flame job. It'll save you a lot of time, you know, maybe it'll save you money, and you know, you'll have a lot better chance at trying to match in what you're trying to match. So tomorrow I'm going to come back in, I'm going to sand this, and I'll bring you back in. All right, so the next day I've let the clear dry, and I came in with my squirt bottle of water, a piece of 800 and a paint stick that I used as a block, and I've sanded everything smooth, blocked in the clear. That's why I put, you know, 4.5, 5 coats of clear on this thing, to actually use it as a filler, just like you would primer. And so I have something to actually block in, because, you know, you want it as straight as you can possibly make it. And by using clear, like I mentioned, all of this is still untouched with primer. So all I have to do now is mask off these areas, and I'll work right in this area, and hopefully everything will go fine. So I'm gonna mask this off now, and then I'll bring you back in. All right, so here it is. I masked off the area that's got to be spotted in, which that's going to be this silver first. I'm going to spot that in, keeping my spot as small as possible, and then I'm going to mask that area, and then move on to the pink that's under here. All right, let me do this real quick, and I'll be right back. So to spot in the silver, what I'm taking is the original silver base that this motorcycle was painted, and then it was topped off with a couple of different flakes. One being Ultra Silver Mini, and the other one was a pink rose flake. I don't know if you can kind of see that, but all I'm doing is I just went ahead and poured a little bit of this silver and a little bit of the flake mixed in here. I don't know if you can see it at all. Not really, but it's in there. And all I'm going to do is just kind of blend in that little spot. So let's go do that, and I'll be right back. All right. So I sprayed a couple of coats of silver that I mixed up. Before I did that, I did just a light coat of this adhesion promoter. And when I say light coat, I mean like just a mist of that stuff. Don't overdo that because it works in the opposite if you do. So I did that first. I let it sit for a few minutes, and then I came back over and I sprayed the silver, and I put a couple of coats of inner coat clear, or in this case, full base coat, and that's basically inner coat clear. So I put a couple of coats of that on there just to protect it while I move on to the next color. All right, let's move on. All right, guys. Well, as I've been stating through the whole video, my plan was to spot this area in here and then blend it back out, and that would be, you know, sufficient. But I mixed up a little bit of base for it using the silver and some pink, and I just wasn't happy with it. I just knew that, you know, it was going to show a spot. It's going to be either too dark or too bright. And so I went with plan B. Always have a plan B. Because in the paint world, anything can go awry. So plan B was going ahead and rebasing that whole graphic stripe back in metal flake. And then several coats of the pink, and put the red, candy red fade around everything like it was before. The biggest reason I didn't want to do it this way is because now I'm going to build an edge between the old paint job and what is now the new graphic put on it. So maybe a couple extra coats of clear will bury that. I really feel bad because I wanted to show you guys how to do that and blend the candy, but you know, if it's not going to look correct, and it's your customer's bike, you know, you don't want to give them back something they're not going to be happy with. So this is where we're at. We're back to the silver base on the graphic. I'm going to do the pink and the candy red fade, and then I'll unmask it and we'll be back. All right, so after the silver flake put back into the panel, I did several coats of the candy pink, added the candy red fade back into it, and then I sprayed 2 or 3 coats of inner coat clear on top of that. Next step, I'll Scotch Brite with gray Scotch Brite over that, scuff it up, and then I'll put 2 or 3 good coats, maybe 4, of the urethane clear. Now, as soon as I get that done, I'll bring you right back. All right. So that is 3, maybe 4 coats of urethane clear on the job. The job is finished now. I was going to give it a color sand and buff, but you know what? It's pretty shiny and pretty wet looking, so I'm not even going to mess with it. I'm going to call it finished. You know, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but I don't like to work on bikes that are still assembled. I like to work on the piece by itself that's damaged or getting painted up on a bench or a table. This particular bike sits on airbags, so I had to do this whole job while sitting on the floor, and it just makes it difficult to get up and down and have to you know, you start on something and you realize, oh, I don't have my roll of tape with me. I need a razor blade. You know, I got to go grab a piece of sandpaper. So you're constantly going up and down. But it is what it is. So hopefully in this video, you picked up something you might be able to use. You know, I realize that not everybody does these jobs the same way. Everybody's got their own little tricks or habits that they're used to doing. And but this is the way I do them. So you can use any of this information to help you move along, please do. And I'll catch you on the next video. All right, thanks a lot.